to another episode of the Holden Village podcast. I am your host, Dev, he, him pronouns, and I'm with one of our resident artists for the 2023 summer program, John Beck. You've been teaching here for 2 weeks now. How would you like to introduce yourself and what are you offering the village?
I'm a high school art teacher. I'm still teaching. I'm a little bit on the older side, but I enjoy teaching high school and kids are great. Up here in the village, I'm teaching people how to use a limited palette of primary colors. All age groups work with me. I just love being with people and working with them. And up here especially, it's really easy to have anybody that comes through the door.
Sure.
To work with. It's fun to work with the staff up here. The staff this year was amazing. I had a full load of folks in here with the staff and they did some awesome stuff. It was just a lot of fun.
Wonderful.
But little kids, if they're younger than 10, they're usually with an adult, but the little kids that I've had in there have had a good time this year and everybody in between.
In the 2 weeks that you've been here, I keep hearing all these wonderful tales of people just having really wonderful experiences in your class. So that's fantastic. You've been teaching at the village for a while now, right?
Yes, I first came up in 1999.
Okay.
With my family. I was a short-term potter, and I did that for a number of years. And then since the remediation, I've been doing mostly watercolors and colored pencil.
What's your favorite part of watercolor?
I love to watch the way the colors flow. You don't want to overwork watercolors. You want to blend 2 to 3 colors, but you want to let them do what they want to do, not what you think you want them.
That's wonderful, because art should be healing.
Yes, it is.
It should be an internal thing, yeah. When did you start dabbling with art? Or when did you first consider yourself an artist?
Well, I first started dabbling when I was 35.
Okay.
I got in trouble in the 7th grade for drawing on my desk because we were supposed to be silent reading and I was unable to read at that time. Yeah, I started when I was 35 and I realized I could do. A young lady who was an artist over on the coast of Oregon showed me that I had that potential to do that, and a year later I started college and became a high school art teacher.
Wonderful. I know that's a big part of what you share with people, how school was a little tough earlier on in your life. Do you want to articulate some of that?
Yes, I don't mind talking about that. I'm dyslexic, and back I started school in 1955, and I was called retarded for the first 4 years of school. School was not a lot of fun for me. I didn't like it, but I made it through, and I learned my folks made sure that I knew how to work so I could support myself when I got out of school. I did eventually learn how to read. I don't read real fast, but I have a bachelor's degree in art education, and I've got a master's degree in curriculum instruction and school reform.
That's beautiful. Yeah, it's our scholastic system is not particularly good. I'm sorry you had to deal with all those things, but it also helped you be the person that you are today.
Yeah, it is. And all the things that we do, all our mistakes, and I've made quite a few mistakes over my life. They all are part of who we are, and I don't mind sharing those with my students.
That's fantastic. So one of my favorite art forms is improvised theater. And one of the things that it teaches you is how to fail and to not be afraid of failure. And that's such a hard thing for humans to deal with.
Tell my students they need to make 3,000 mistakes and we only learn from our mistakes. And that goes with our life lessons also.
Fantastic. So your first experience at Holden was as a ceramicist?
Yes.
Or as a potter? Okay. What was your journey through pottery?
I was a heavy equipment operator for most of my life, so I was always used to working in the mud, dirt. I needed a 3D class when I was in college, and the only one that had an opening was pottery. The first time I was in there, I kind of fell in love with it, and it was very relaxing for me to learn how to throw and do that. I love teaching it at the high school level. So that's kind of where I started with pottery, but I love coming up here and teaching whatever they want me to do at the time. So
Eden is calling. I'm curious what that means to you and perhaps how you've been talking about that this week or last week as well.
I find in nature, especially up here, or even in Oregon or Washington, Alaska, where I've been in the woods and forests and out on the ocean, that I feel closer to God when I'm in nature. And up here, the acceptance of everything that God has made is beautiful. It doesn't matter if it's human or natural. It's accepted and appreciated. That's one of the things I love about teaching art. I get to work with students of every facet of education. I mean, everybody that walks through the door is welcome in my classroom.
So you also live kind of remotely when you're not in the village?
Well, we live in town. That's the first time we've lived in town in Dallas for quite a few years now. But that's the first time I've really lived in a town. It's a small town.
Okay.
And we're a block from the parks, and we have trees all around us. So I could get home after work and go in the backyard, take my hearing aid out, and I feel like I'm out in the woods.
Yeah. How would you describe Holden Village to someone that's never been here? I always love asking this question because it's so different for each person.
Well, what I like about it is you can be totally off the grid. I like the fact that we don't have to worry about phone calls, we don't have to worry about the news. Everybody up here is accepting of everybody else. And I love being out in the tall timber and the mountains, and you could sit and watch the mountains for hours and never get bored. It's kind of like watching the ocean for hours. It's a place where you could come and relax. You could read if you want. There's a lot of different activities that you can do. There's amazing speakers that come up here. We've heard music that would just totally blow your mind, that you could hear that up in the mountains like this. I've heard cello players out in the woods playing. That's a lot of fun. It's just an amazing place. The people are friendly, and it's a safe environment for everybody. We get to see a lot of wildlife, and you could hike and fish and go camping if you want. There's just a lot to do for everybody. But the main thing for me is it's just a place where I could just totally relax. And even if I'm working all the time, it's not like work. I'm having fun doing what I'm doing, but it's just all the tension goes out of my body. When I come up over the hill and see the lake down there, I could feel the tension start to release.
I notice for me when I'm in the ferry, that midpoint in that journey, I feel a total difference in just like lightness. And like Chelan is not like a busy metropolis, but for me, like that's like, it's that midpoint. You can't see any houses anymore, and you're like really in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, I always love that. So do you fish?
I used to fish up here quite a bit.
Okay.
When I was a little bit more mobile, but I do love to fish up here.
What's the best fishing spot? Because I want to fish. Like I love fish.
Heart Lake is really good. You gotta get around to where the water's coming into the lake, and the fish are always good there. There's some really good places down closer to the lake. Some nice pools along under the trees where the water's rippling down from above them, and those are pretty good spots. Anyway, it's a lot of fun, and you can fish anywhere along the creek here. You can find those little sheltered pools.
Excellent. 2 questions.
Okay.
How would you like to see your work evolve in the future? Like, is there something that you would like to do that you haven't done yet, that you like to experiment with? And perhaps, what hopes do you have for the world?
Boy, that's a loaded question.
No big deal, right?
Well, I'll deal with the first one first. I love coming up here, and I'm still going to teach one more year at the high school where I'm at. But after that, I would like to come up here sometime during J term and teach a color theory session for college students. That would be a lot of fun. I would also like to maybe spend some extra time up here sometime and just paint without...
Just like a personal retreat.
Right, just have, I've come up a couple of times, where I've taken workshops in March. I've done that twice. But I would also like to come up maybe a few days before my session starts. I tend to come up here and go right to work and start getting... I spend a lot of time getting things ready and cleaning up and doing that. So it'd be nice to be able to come in maybe 5 days before my session starts just to paint, and maybe have 2-3 days 4 days where I could just paint. That'd be fun. And maybe that'll happen down the road. I love coming up here. I don't know what's going to take to get us back on an even keel, But I would like us to come together again as a nation and a world population to where we aren't so angry with each other all the time. We've slipped back into where we were in the 70s, but I think we're even worse than we were in the 70s with the conflicts.
I think we're more angry than ever right now.
Yeah, we are, and it's sad to see. And in the classroom, I do pretty well with my kids, my students, and they're pretty respectful of each other, and they know that if they aren't, then they're going to need to find someplace else to be, because I won't let them stay in there if they aren't going to work together. But as a nation, we need to figure out, we're more alike than we are different. And we need to get beyond the anger and the name calling, and everybody should be accepted. Doesn't matter where you're from, nationality, sexual preferences, religion. We're all people of this world, and we need to learn to live together.
We're watercolors,
Yeah, we need to be blended.
Exactly. Well, that feels very conclusive to me. I also just heard the lunch bell, so I don't want to take away from lunchtime. But yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation, but also blessing the village with your teaching, your crafting. And it's great to just get to know you as well.
Thank you. I appreciate it.